What is up, Internet? Welcome back to another YZ250 retro rebuild update. So this is episode 9, I think it is. So the previous one would have been 8 because that's how numbers work. In episode 8, we had the shock disassembled on the workbench. We were kind of in the middle of a rebuild, and shock's back on the bike. Rebuild was successful, minus actually riding the motorcycle. I think I did a good job. We'll see. First time rebuilding a shock. You still have to take it to a dealer or a service shop somewhere, somebody that can charge it with nitrogen. Went back down to Apex and for 10 bucks got it charged up with nitrogen. They were able to easily look up model year, know how much nitrogen to put into the shock. So that's all good. But I wanted to real quickly talk about why I didn't make a video on just a shock rebuild, because originally that was one of the episodes I had planned out, was just the shock rebuild. So I did some research. I found a video from RockyMountainATVMC.com. That's a long URL, but I'll put everything in the description of this video. Their video was just, it was just so good. I felt like I couldn't really improve upon it, right? I watched it a couple of times and I decided, let's do this. And I literally put my phone in a mount on the workbench and I just followed along. The video was shot really, really well. Everything was explained really, really well. It was just that good of a video. A lot of times when I find a video, like I found a video for fork service on my ZX-10, and it was a good video, but I felt like there were a couple of things I could have did a little bit better, and so I made my own video for that. Well, I couldn't really, up front find anything that I felt was an area that I could improve upon that was worth me taking the time to make my own video. It was just, their video is just that good. However, when I was getting ready to reassemble, in the rebuild kit, there were a pair of O-rings and a shim, and I thought, well, where do these guys go? The shim was easy to identify because it's on the outside, and it sits on the outside of the shim stack, which is where all your fluid kind of flows through, and that's part of the dampening mechanism inside the shock. But if you pull that shim off, underneath it are 2 O-rings. So I had these 2 O-rings in the shim in the rebuild kit. And I was like, where do these things go? And then I kept going back through the video. I couldn't find anywhere in the video where they talked about it. So I pulled the shim off because I could identify that piece. And underneath that are the 2 O-rings. So I replaced those. Now, up front, had I known the video was not going to talk about that, that would have been enough for me to make my own video. Because there you go. There's an area where they left something out. And I could make my own video, put that in it, and it would be different, and maybe not better, but it'd be different. So that's why I didn't make a video on the shock rebuild. And again, link in the description. Their video is still excellent. I still highly recommend it, but I'll put some still photos in here. I should have already, by the time I said all this, some still photos on what I'm talking about with the 2 O-rings and the shim on the valve stack. So that's that. Shock's back on the bike. Everything is good. Of course, we haven't ridden it yet, but it's there. It's good. What else? Oh, we got the carburetor back on. So the carburetor's back on. We got a new throttle cable wired up. We cleaned and disassembled the throttle tube housing, cleaned everything up, put some lubrication in there for the cable. So that's good to go, which means we can torque down the subframe now. I left it loose so that I could slide it back to get the rear shock back on the bike, and then it also makes it easier. It's not a requirement, but it does make it easier to get the carburetor in the intake boot, and if you can, just pull your subframe back. So now that's all done. I can torque the subframe down. We finished the rear brake bleeding, so we got the wheel back on, and we were able to finish bleeding the caliper. So the rear brake is 100% functional now, and we're good to go there. The wheel's got a brand new sprocket on. We've also got a black TM Designs chain guide. So that's cool because, the blue one doesn't really go with our new yellow and black retro theme. So it's got to go. It still has some life in it, but we got to get a black one. It just, we got a theme here. We need to color coordinate stuff. So don't talk about my blue axle blocks. I may have to replace those, but I'm not going to do it now because I just want to ride now. I just want to ride. So we're getting super, super close. What's left to do now? We got to rebuild the front forks. I've got a number of videos on seal service for forks. I think like 2 just on this bike, 1 on my ZX10. So I'm not going to make a video for that, but I will talk about what's different, because I've been asked this before. What's different with a rebuild versus just fluid and seals? So we'll talk about that in the next video, and then possibly, because after the forks are done, we put the forks back up on the triple clamps, fender, wheel, exhaust, we're ready to start it. So the next video, which will be episode 10, we'll have the forks rebuilt and potentially the first engine start. That's pretty exciting. Episode 10, fork rebuild, possible first engine start. Episode 11, we'll be breaking her in at the track, and we'll just call that done. And man, I can't wait to do that one. All right, guys, keep the rubber side down, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.